Man, we gotta do better. We gotta do better. We got to do better. Like, we do. This is, I get why people are not haven't done their genealogy, don't know this type of stuff and all this other stuff. And this is why I highly encourage people to do the genealogy themselves, because you don't want other people handing you narratives.
You ain't gotta go nowhere. Everything you need right here, right here. You ain't gotta go nowhere. Everything you need right here, right here.
What's going on? I'm Anoki the One, back with another video. And in this video, I will be reacting to Questlove's Finding Your Roots episode, and I will be going at it without assumptions. And if there's assumptions made, I'm gonna be pointing it out. If there's things that we need to question in this video, I'm gonna point it out and give my thoughts. So let's check it out. Questlove.
Amir Thompson, better known as Questlove, has one of the most astonishing stories we've ever recovered. Records show that Amir's third great grandparents, Charles and Maggie Lewis, were born in Africa sometime in the 1820s. Now that date stood out because the slave trade to the United States was outlawed as of January 1808. After that, very few enslaved Africans came into the United States, meaning that Charles and Maggie must have been smuggled into this country illegally.
Pause! How are you assuming that just because his great-great-great-grandparents, his third great-grandparents, came from Africa after slavery was over, how are you assuming that they were smuggled into the country? Where are you getting this assumption? You see how they do? And then he want to put a picture. This is when I'm talking about a drawing. This is childish. This is childish. You're assuming, now you know slavery, importing slaves from Africa stopped in the 1810s, 1820s. And you say that. But then you proceed to come to make an assumption that because his ancestors was from Africa, that somehow a white man had to smuggle them from Africa. How you assuming that they couldn't have the money, they didn't put the money together to be able to get themselves to the United States, just like all these English people, the Irish, the French. And then want to put these silly damn pictures up here. And then people, well, they're not going to have a record of them being smuggled. If they have records that they're from Africa, if they have records for everything else, if they have records telling the story, then they should have some kind of record. They probably have a record saying that they brought themselves here. Just assume all of Africa, everybody in Africa can't get here. But everybody else around the world could get here. How the hell did that go? And want to put a picture, a painting.
Arrival of a cargo of African Negroes. Schooner Clotilda with Africans arrived in Mobile Bay today.
Hold
the
on
steamboat
now.
Immediately took them up the river.
Okay, now let's see. Does it say that your ancestors was on the Clotilda? And also, Dane Calloway broke down the whole Clotilda situation and pretty much debunked the Clotilda. There is no real evidence of any slave ships. They don't have any pieces of any real slave ships that they can prove were slave ships to this day. But yet they have they have Egyptian ships. They have ships from Egyptian times.
It's the second of a pair of boats that were buried in pits next to the pharaoh's final resting place. The other ship, now housed in a museum at Giza, was excavated in 1954. Inside, archaeologists and scientists face a daunting task. They're trying to excavate an ancient wooden boat that was buried nearly 5,000 years ago.
But they don't have ships from the 1800s? From the 1700s, 1600s? Now let's see what they're about to say now. Cause they be piecing stuff together that don't. Let's see how they gonna put this together.
On Monday, July 9th, 1860, a ship called the Clotilda arrived in Mobile Bay carrying 110 African slaves. It's the last known slave ship to come to America. Your family settled less than 2 miles from an area, Amir, you ready for this? Known as Africa Town, which was founded by survivors of the Clotilda.
Bruh. Wait a minute. Am I tripping? Didn't he just say? Didn't this fool just say that it was outlawed in 1820? But now they have, in 1860, they have this imaginary Clotilda boat that they had a record of, and they knew exactly how many quote-unquote African slaves was on it. But do they have a record of the names of the people on it? How do you know the name of a smuggled ship? Wouldn't that be low-key? Wouldn't they not want people to know what it's called or that it existed? Because they always want to make it seem like, okay, well, you know, if they were smuggling slaves into the United States, they're not gonna give you the names of the slaves on the ship, but they're gonna give you the name of the ship and how many slaves was on it. Why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. They're gonna make a whole plaque telling you a bunch of vague information. 124 Negroes came from Africa, blah, 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 on the Clotilda. But they don't have the names of the slaves. But y'all doing illegal activity, but y'all want to tell people what the name of the ship is and how many people's on it, but y'all don't know the names of the people that was on it. Y'all can't find that information. And y'all know when it landed and everything. But it was supposed to be outlawed since 1820 or 1810.
Absolutely.
And then he want to bust out, they ended up in a place called Africa Town. So all of this is pretty much, they're giving you a little random information here. They give you a little random piece of narrative here. They give you a little random piece of narrative here. And they want your mind to make assumptions. They want you to make assumptions. They don't want you to have questions. They want you to make assumptions. Okay, so they're not really fully fit in the narrative because they were from Africa in a time when they were importing slaves from Africa, so it's not possible. They can't possibly be free and got here on their own. That doesn't go with the narrative, all right? So, of course they were smuggled here. They had to have been smuggled here, okay? Now, the Clotilda landed in the 1860s. Now, this is after they would have already been there. Because they got there in 1820, according to him. Clotilda didn't happen until 1860. How are you trying to make this good? Then guess what? We found your ancestors in a place called Africa Town. Isn't that amazing? So you see how they're trying to lead you to what they want you to believe, but they're not giving you any hard facts or any real information to where you can actually trace it and say, okay, they did this. They came here. This is exactly how they came here. This is the ship they came on. This is the date. This is the theory. This is the narrative.
I'm on the absolute last ship that ever came here.
We don't know exactly what happened to Questlove's ancestors when the Clotilda arrived, but we do know that 5 years later, after the end of the Civil War, they became farmers, living close to the river where they first came ashore in America. Many of their descendants still live in that area, and thanks to them, we made an extraordinary find.
Let me see. Did he say that they came there in 1810? I feel like he said they got there in 1810 or 1820 or something.
Were born in Africa sometime in the 1820s. Now that date stood out because the United States was outlawed as of January 1808. After that, very few enslaved Africans came into the United States, meaning that Charles and Maggie must have been smuggled into this.
Jeez, this is ridiculous. Then, this is the other part. This is a missing piece. This is a very important piece. Okay. Now, this document, they was 60 years old. It's not showing you, this is a census. They're purposely not showing you what year this census is in. Okay, because that would tell you some information. Okay, because if they were born in like 1820, they would be 40 by the time this whole Clotilda situation came in. That would give you more information and more context to be having a conversation about this. So these people are purposely leaving out information. And the stuff they're saying ain't make no sense right now.
July 9th, 1860.
Wait. Wait, where am I? There we are.
We don't know exactly what happened to Questlove's ancestors.
Yeah, you don't. So stop telling stories. And
5 years later,
look at this. We don't know exactly what happened to his ancestors during the Clotilda, but we're gonna show you a picture of some black people. A picture, a drawing that I can draw right now here today of some black people in the back of a horse carriage being pulled somewhere. We don't know where the hell they're being pulled. We don't know who they are because this is a drawing. And we don't know where they were at that time, but we do know 5 years later they were farmers. So how do you know that they weren't farmers before then and they just continued farming? How do you know that they didn't own, let's see what they got to say. Let's see what they got to say now.
after the end of the Civil War,
They became farmers, living close to the river where they first came ashore in America. Many of their descendants still live in that area, and thanks to them, we made an extraordinary find. You, Amir, are looking at your third great-grandfather. That is your original African ancestor, brother. That is Charlie Lewis.
How? How'd you?
The photo comes from a descendant of Charlie Lewis like you, one of your cousins.
That's my great-great-great-grandfather.
That is your third great-grandfather.
The eyes are the same.
The fact that he has a drawing of himself, I don't know who drew. See, this is something that you should be thinking about. This is something else. For somebody to have a picture back then, a drawing of them, they had to have some money. The man looked like he got money.
Those are my eyes, man.
Well, now you know where they came from.
That's not easy to do. That's not easy to get. That man had money.
I'm not overacting. I'm not. Yeah, I'm at a loss of words. I'm just so overwhelmed right now because until an hour ago, I didn't know who I was.
That's sad. This is sad.
I said I wasn't gonna cry, man. I didn't know who I was or who I came from.
Discovering the stories of our ancestors.
What? That's it? Man, we gotta do better. We got to do better. Like, we do. This is, I get why people are not haven't done their genealogy, don't know this type of stuff and all this other stuff. And this is why I highly encourage people to do the genealogy themselves, because you don't want other people handing you narratives when they're giving you your ancestry and all this other stuff. We should know our third great grandparents. We should know who they are. Like that's your grandpa's grandpa. You should know some kind of story even before. And really, it wasn't until I started talking about grandpa. If you have grandparents, you should know who your third great grandparents are. We gotta do better. And you know, I'm being a little tough and rough right now. I feel like again that was, you know, he's trying to make himself emotional. It was nothing y'all said right there was really emotional. I get like seeing one of your ancestors for the first time. If you haven't seen an old picture of your ancestors, that's beautiful. Like, you know, that's wonderful. But we need to do the work. People are always talking, whining and complaining about all kinds of different stuff about slavery times. And literally the man just let him know that his ancestor wasn't even a slave. It doesn't even go, they trying to make the story fit a narrative. It don't. His ancestor came from Africa in a time when importing slaves was over with, okay? He became a farmer. The man is clearly did well off because he has a painting of him. That is what rich people do in the 1800s. Okay, this is what we need to know. This is what we need to know. Okay, they just give me little pieces. No, your ancestors deserve more than that. Your ancestors deserve more than that. You deserve more than that. You deserve more than these little... And getting emotional. Where is he? What? Every episode, when they talk about us, they want you to get emotional at the end. They want you to get emotional. And he's not even giving you a real story that goes with what they're saying. I could give you more of a story of what would make more sense than what he gave you. Okay. Basically, he said his ancestors was born in Africa. Okay. In the 1820s, which means in the 1820s, they were in Africa. In America, they were no longer importing slaves from Africa. Now, did they tell you what part of Africa? It just says Africa. It don't say South Africa. It don't say Ghana. It just say Africa. The whole continent. Okay? But that is what they did back then. If you're from France, it would say France. If you were from Europe, it would say Europe. Only from Africa are you made to assume that you were smuggled here. If it would have said French, if it would have said Irish, if it would have said anything else, they wouldn't make that assumption, even though it could have easily been the same situation, possibly. Okay, they want you to assume. Now, 9 times out of 10, his ancestors was doing well in Africa. Possibly. I'm not gonna say 9 times out of 10, but possibly they were doing well in Africa. And they heard of an opportunity, they want to come to America, just like you do right now today. Okay, and if he had money like he looked like he did, then he would have been able to afford to get to America on his own without the hands of a white man smuggling him. So he gets to America. He lands in the port, Mobile, Alabama. Why? The farming was booming. The cotton was booming. Cotton is king. Just like how they had a gold rush, people was rushing to the South to pick cotton, to own land that had cotton in it, because that was one of the wealthiest resources, one of the most profitable resources in the world. Okay, that's not what they tell us, but that's what we need to know. It was a huge industry, huge for entrepreneurship, and that's why a lot of people, big business people, royalty in different places, came to the South, and they was picking cotton. Okay, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know these things. Okay, they want y'all to think picking cotton was something that peasants did, slaves did, and poor people did. Poor people did do it, but also wealthy people did do it, and also poor people became wealthy doing it. So if you want to get emotional that, you know, you've been told that your ancestors was all slaves and they're all, you know, poor and destitute and all that, but that story did not reflect that. That's why they didn't say too much about it. And then he mentioned, we've found out an amazing, illustrious history from this. After the Civil War, your great-grandfather was a farmer. And then that's it. Literally, that was the rest of the story. So everything else, everything that he made fascinating about it was trying to make it a slave narrative. That's what he was trying to make it a slave narrative, but he fumbled. But I guarantee you, if I go in the comments of that video, you have all kind of, oh my gosh, so beautiful to see. I can't believe you're able to do this research. I wish I could do this research for myself. You can, through Ancestry.com. You can use that same tool. Now, they want y'all to use this tool with all kinds of assumptions. That's why they're constantly pumping this stuff out. So, okay, even though y'all have access to this information now, we don't want y'all to know what really was going on. We want y'all to color it with the narratives. Even though y'all are finding all these truths and all these anomalies, and we're going to show videos of anomalies, but we're going to make you believe that we're going to put narratives on top of those anomalies so they seem like it's still a part of the slave narrative. So basically, that's what I think about that. Another one. I'm gonna keep doing these. Because this is important for us to hear, and it's important for us to start questioning things and not assume, not make all these assumptions. All right? You don't want people assuming about you because of the color of your skin right now. Why would you want to assume about your ancestors because of the color of their skin 100 years ago? You don't know what they was going through. You don't know what they was thinking about. Really? So do the work to find out yourself. I guarantee you're going to hear a much different story than what they're trying to tell you. All right? So I'll see y'all in the next video. Like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know if you got some stories from your ancestors that you've been making assumptions about that you might want to question now that you've seen this video, or whatever the case may be. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm out.
Everything me right